Welcome, home seekers, to another hot debate here in sunny Arizona. The debate is, should I rent or should I buy? And the decision that you make can shape your future and also redefine your lifestyle. Renting or buying, which should you do? That's such a heated debate. Some people say, no, don't rent. You should always buy. And other people say, oh, fooey balooey with always buying. I'm going to rent. So what should you do? Well, in this video, we're going to be talking about renting versus buying, the pros and cons, the ups and downs, the good and bad of both renting or buying. Which should you do? We're going to cover it all right now. So whether you need to rent, want to buy, need to buy, we're going to go hop on a journey through the renting and buying cycle, the pros and cons of good and bad, as I said. And maybe by the end of the video, you'll have a decision on what avenue you might want to go. But I will say up front, and I'm going to say right now, and I'll get heat from it from some people, there are times you need rent, and there are times renting is okay. Do I think in long-term buying is better? Yes, of course I do, because of the equity purposes that you can have and put into your pocket. I'd much rather give the money to myself than give it to a landlord. But we'll get into that a little bit later. If this is your first time to the channel and you'd like to know everything about living in Phoenix, Arizona and or the surrounding areas, well, subscribe below and remember to hit the bell, ding, 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 so you can be the first to be notified when anything new comes up about Phoenix, Arizona and or the surrounding areas. However, if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. We greatly appreciate it. Please remember to give us a thumbs up. That would be so greatly appreciated. My name is Mary K. Marino, and welcome to Hello Arizona Living and Real Estate. We are here to help you, serve you, guide you, and support you at the highest level possible. So whether you're planning on making a move in 9 days, 90 days, 9 months, a year, 2 years, call, text, email us. Days, nights, weekends, all our information is below for you to contact us. Call, text, email us. We are here for you. Whether you're going to buy, whether you're going to rent, we are going to help you with your journey with real estate. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to tackle the hot debate that should I rent? Should I buy? Which should I do? Well, the pros and cons, the good and bad, and the ups and downs and ugly and pretty are coming up about renting and buying, and we're getting after it right now. Let's go. Okay, so we're going to start off with renting first, the pros of renting. And the number one pro for renting, of course, is flexibility and mobility. Meaning you are not committed to this house. You know, when your lease is up in 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever your lease length is, you can just get up and say, hasta la pasta, I'm out of here. You're not attached to the house itself. You know, you can just come and go, and a lot of people like that. So that is one of the pros of renting, is the flexibility and mobility of renting. You just like, I love it, and now I'm leaving. And you don't have to worry about selling the house. You just end your lease, call your landlord and say, hi, this is Mary K. Marino. I am ending my lease at the end of the lease. Thank you very much. I am moving on. Number two on the pros for renting are upfront costs. Typically with buying a house, you have closing costs, you have down payment costs, you have mortgage costs. With upfront costs for lease, as you may or may not know, you are going to have your month's rent. You're going to have your security deposit. You're going to have a pet deposit. If you have a pet deposit, you are also going to have a cleaning deposit. Some of those are refundable, some of those are not. As far as security deposit, in Arizona, legally, they can charge you up to 1.5 times your rent. So if your rent's $2,000, legally, they can charge you up to $3,000 for security. However, typically, it's usually 1 month's rent. So if your rent is $2,000, your security deposit is usually going to be right around $2,000. And then you're going to have your cleaning fee, your pet fee if you have a pet, and many times now on pet fees they are going per pet. So if you have 2 pets, 3 pets, 4 pets, it's going to be maybe $200 or $300 per pet. And now another thing they're doing regarding pets, they have pet rent. Yes, can you believe that? Oh my goodness, they're charging you pet rent per month. Some of them they're doing it $10 to $30 for pet rent that you're going to add on to your monthly rent. What else are they going to charge? My gosh. So just keep in mind that's another expense you may have to consider for renting. However, that should be a con, shouldn't it? But normally your upfront costs are much less, but I just wanted to give you your upfront costs there on renting. Just an FYI. Okay, moving on. Number 3 on your pros is limited maintenance responsibility. Normally, usually, but not always, the landlord will take care of all of your maintenance requirements and fixes. So if something breaks, you got something wrong with the plumbing, the electrical, or the roof is leaking, or whatever the case may be, you call your landlord, property manager, and they come out and they fix it. So that's a nice advantage to renting. You don't have to worry about that. However, there are some landlords, property managers say, no, you have to pay the first $50 or the first $100, and then we'll take care of it from there. The reason they do that is because they want to make sure that the repair that you're asking to get fixed, it's really broken, because sometimes we have renters, or there are renters who take advantage of it. They hear a little squeak, which is absolutely nothing. They call and say, I've got something wrong, and there's nothing really wrong. So they want to make sure that it's definitely something that needs to be fixed. But just be aware that usual maintenance are covered by the landlord and or property manager, and you don't have to worry about, which is a pro for renting the home. Number 4 on the pros is amenities and conveniences. Many times you have the amenities of a workout area, you have a pool, you have parks around, and you don't have to pay for the cost of that. If you live in an HOA, the landlord's usually, not always, usually pays the HOA fees. And then you get to avail yourself, if there's a community pool, to go to the pool, there's a community gym to go to the gym, and you don't have to add that to your expenses. The landlord property manager does. So it's nice to have those amenities for you without having to pay for it. Number 5 on the pros is predictable monthly expenses. You already know what your expenses are going to be. Rent, utilities, you have water, internet cable, and then all your food and your maybe your auto. It's not like you have to pay the mortgage, but that's your rent. You don't have to pay for homeowner's insurance. You don't have to pay for HOA fees. So you already know what your fixed monthly expenses are going to be, which is kind of nice. Okay, we're going to go move on to the cons of renting. Yes, there are cons of renting. And the first one is, as I mentioned earlier, is lack of equity. You have zero equity. All the equity is going into the landlord. Every time you pay your rent, which is actually paying their mortgage, you are adding to the pot of their golden pot of the equity into the home. Rent does not build equity or wealth, unlike a mortgage, which it would do. Rent unfortunately pays for the landlord for his mortgage and his wealth building. So that is a huge con. And I do try to explain that to renters, that if you have the choice to buy, if you can, do that. But just be aware that you are paying 100% interest going to the landlord. So you're not going to get any equity value out of renting. It's all going to him, unfortunately. But that's just the nature of the beast and the way it goes. Number 2 on the con is limited control and customization. You don't get to change anything in the house. Sometimes they'll let you paint, yes, but you have to return it back to the color it originally was. So if there are white walls or brown walls and your kids come in and say, I'd like to have a different color, wall color in my room, you have to call the property manager or the landlord or the owner and ask them if you can repaint the house to a different color. Sometimes they will say yes, but in the lease contract, it states that you have to return the home back to its original state. So you have to repaint it before you leave back to original color. So the customization is not there so much for a rent. You can't update things like, I don't like those faucet handles, I want to change them out. No, you're not going to be able to do that because the landlord's not going to come in and add that to it. It's pretty much what you see is what you get. Number 3 on the cons is rent increases. Oh my gosh, rent increases. It was a horror story. A few years back, I had people calling, Mary Kay, the landlord just called me and he upped my rent $500. The landlord just called me and they upped my rent $1,000, $1,200. And you're thinking, that's crazy. They wouldn't do that. They did do that. And unfortunately, rent increases are one of the cons with renting. Landlords can do whatever they want. It's their home. Once your lease is up, they can raise the rent to whatever they want. You have no control over it. They can do it. They own the home. So just be aware that that can happen. Do I anticipate it's going to happen again? Who knows? Nobody has a crystal ball. I just want you to be aware of, and you may have experienced it, that landlords are calling or have called in the past and just raised the rents up so high that they couldn't afford it. They had to leave because they knew they had 5, 6, 10 people behind them that were willing to come in and pay that rent amount. But that is a con. Rents can increase to whatever the landlord wants it to be. Number 4 on the cons is no tax benefits. Tax benefits go to the owner of the home. Renters do not get any tax benefits on deductions and mortgage interest and property taxes. That all goes to the landlord, owner of the home. not the renter. So unfortunately, that's one of the cons of renting. Number 5 is there's no investment potential, meaning renting does not provide the potential for property value to appreciate, limiting the opportunity for financial gains. So you know, if the property value goes up, you don't get any of that. So that's just one of the cons that have it. There's no investment potential for a renter to be in a house. All, like I said, it all goes to the owner of the home and not to you. Now, with all that being said, as I mentioned earlier, there are times you do need to rent. There are times that renting does make sense. Sometimes when people do move from out of state to Arizona and they're really, really unsure where they want to go, and they just say, Mary, I just want to rent for 6 months or a year. Usually people do it for a year and, you know, get a feel for the area. Yeah, we can do that. And then from there, we'll transition you into a home purchase. But many times say, I don't want to move again. I want to go right to buying the house. But yeah, there are times you do need to rent a home. Sometimes you run into financial hardships. We hit speed bumps in our life and we can no longer go down the avenue, go down the road of buying a house at the moment. So we have to rent until we get ourselves out of the hole that somehow we got into. But so yes, there are times renting is good, but if you can ever not rent and if you have the opportunity to buy instead, I'm all for that because of the equity advantages, the tax advantages, and there's so many other advantages to owning a home versus renting and giving all your money to the landlord. Okay, so let's move on to the pros and cons of buying a house. And we're going to start off with the pros of buying a house. And number 1 is, can you guess? Equity. Yes, building equity in a home that you have purchased, you bought, and you own. Home ownership allows you to build equity over time, potentially leading to long-term financial security. Building wealth. You can build wealth with home ownership rather than renting. This is one of the huge advantages of owning a home, as I mentioned probably a bazillion times already. Number 2 is stability and ownership. By that I mean you have full control over your property, the customization of your property, what's going on inside the property, outside the property, which is kind of nice. You don't have to call up anybody and get permission to change a faucet, to paint a wall, or whatever else you want to change within your home or in your yard. Unless you're in an HOA, you have to get permission for the front of the yard, but usually in the back of the yard, you can do pretty much what you want to do. But customization in the home, you can pretty much do what you want to do, which is kind of nice. Who wants to ask permission every time to do something in your own house? Never. Number 3 on the pros for owning your home, of course, is tax benefits. Yes, it's always nice to have tax benefits. Homeowners benefit from paying tax deductions on mortgage interest and property taxes, which reduce your overall tax liability, which is a huge advantage. And we all complain about how much we pay for taxes. It's always nice to be able to subtract and remove some things that we pay Uncle Sam. It's nice to have that advantage. So owning a home is nice to have that tax benefit. It just is what it is, and it's always nice to have that. So that is definitely a pro for owning a home. Number 4 on the pro for owning a home is investment potential. Owning real estate usually appreciates in value over time, which provides you financial growth and wealth accumulation. And sometimes you can grow enough so that maybe you're going to now, the home that you own, you are now going to go buy another one and you're going to rent that. And then you're going to do the process again, go buy another one and rent that. And that's called passive income, which is wonderful to have that and grow your wealth along the way. As you get older, then you can rely on that passive income for extra income for yourself. Number 5 on the pros I put in here is sense of community. Owning a home, allows you to be a part of a community in your neighborhood, around your community. You feel like you're part of it. I know some people get so busy at the end of the day, they drive in the garage, shut the garage door and go right into the house and they never go back outside. But it still is nice to be in an area, in a neighborhood, in a community where you feel part of it, that you can go out there and enjoy your neighbors and have barbecues and get-togethers with your neighbors and just have a nice gathering and a nice atmosphere. And you get to know that because you've been there. You own the home, you've been there long term, and you get to know everybody in your neighborhood, down the street, and in the surrounding area. Okay, so we're going to move on to the cons of buying a home, and the first one is financial commitment. Yes, it is a definite financial commitment to buy a house. Home ownership involves substantial upfront costs. Unfortunately, it does. You have your down payment cost, you have closing costs, you have ongoing maintenance expenses with home ownership. The expenses go from when you first purchase the house to the ongoing. It never ends, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but it is what it is. If you want to buy the house, you are going to have your down payment, you're going to have your monthly mortgage, you're going to have your maintenance expenses on the house as things break and need to be fixed. But the advantage of that is the equity that you're putting into the home and the building of the wealth later on down the road, and the value of the house hopefully going up, and you get to appreciate that as well. Number 2 on the cons is responsibility for maintenance. As with if you're a renter, you call the landlord, property manager, say, I have a leak, I have a plumbing issue, I have something going on, come and fix it. When you are the owner, you call yourself. You have to take care of it. You have to take care of the plumbing, the electrical, or anything else that's going on. However, as I mentioned earlier, you can always get a home warranty. There's good and bad with home warranties, but you can get a home warranty to help alleviate some of that. But that is one of the downsides of owning a home. Anything goes wrong, it's up to you. You have to put your hand in your pocket, and then you're going to have to fix the expenses that go on with the house. And you just have deferred maintenance. You in the house and outside of the house, you have landscaping issues as well that you're going to have to keep up, especially in the front of the yard for the HOA requirements. So that is one consideration and a con for buying your own home versus renting, where you just call the property manager and call them to come fix it. Number 3 on the cons is market risks. The market goes up, the market goes down, it never stays the same, unfortunately. Well, no, you don't want it to stay the same, really. It ebbs and flows. It's just the way the market is. It's very cyclical. Did I say that right? It fluctuates. We'll just say that word right there. And sometimes the property value goes down and then it comes right back up. And that's just part of home ownership and value of a home. So market risk is definitely part of home ownership. It's something to consider. But there is a but. If you're going to own the home for a long period of time, which I always encourage people to do, you are going to be able to ride that out. And you will be fine. And it's all part of building wealth in home ownership, so that possibly you can buy more than one home and have passive income with that as well. So that's just a con right now, but it's just part of home ownership and going down the road with it. Number 4 on the con is the reduced mobility, meaning that if you're working, you had to sell really quickly. I've got to leave. I've got to sell ASAP. I have to be out of here next week. You can be out of here next week, but you're going to have to get your house ready to sell. And many times clients do call me and say, Mary Kay, I have a job transfer. What do? I need to get out of here. I need to sell the house. And I usually say, well, go. I will take care of everything, pack up and take everything out. I'll take care of the rest. But yes, it takes time to get the house ready for sale, get it prepared for sale, and then to sell it. Sometimes we can sell it within days. Sometimes it takes longer than that. You have that con is the mobility isn't as great as if you were a renter. The renter, you just, at the end of your lease, you end it. Here, if you have to leave, you leave, but it's just going to take time to sell your house and get everything closed up and get you going to your next town, city, state, or where you need to go. Number 5 on owning a home is property taxes and insurance. That's just another expense you're going to have. Homeowners must pay for property taxes and homeowners insurance. You can add that to your overall cost of home ownership. It's just part of the package, part of the deal of owning a home. Unfortunately or fortunately, that's just part of it. And it is one of the cons. And I don't know what to say. It's just part of the deal. You gotta pay it. So if you don't want to pay that, then maybe you don't want to buy a house. But overall, if you want to buy a house, you want to own a home, it's part of the package. You do need to pay property taxes and homeowners insurance. So there you go. So those are the pros and cons of buying the house. The good, the bad, the ugly, the ups and downs. As you make your decision, ultimately it depends on your individual goals, your financial situation, your lifestyle preferences. Whether you choose the freedom of renting or the stability of ownership, I hope this video will help you make an informed choice that aligns with your needs, goals, and dreams. Thank you so very much for being here with us on this video. I hope it was helpful. If it was helpful, can you please do me a favor, give me a thumbs up? I greatly appreciate it. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, leave it down in the comment section, or you're always welcome, like I say, call, text, or email us. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Mary Kay Marino. Thank you again very much for being here with us. Whether you're moving in 9 days, 90 days, 9 months, a year, 2 years, call, text, email us, days, nights, or weekends. All our information is below in the description to help you make a move to Arizona. So like I always say, until I see you around town, show you around town, you have a marvelous, spectacular, awesome day. Bye for now.